Hello, dear ones. Welcome to our 245th online gathering for faith leaders across the country, with a focus this year on creating beloved community. This regular gathering is sponsored by ELCA's coaching ministry. I am Jason O'Neill. I use any and all pronouns, and I'm honored to be giving the introduction today. In attunement with the truth and healing movement of the ELCA and moving toward right relationship with our Indigenous siblings and neighbors, let us begin with a land acknowledgement. We are gathered together from all parts of Turtle Island, also referred to as North America. We are connected by the breath given us by the breath maker and by the very peace of Mother Earth, the land that each of us inhabits today. We understand that all land is Indigenous land, and we invite each of you to name in the chat the Indigenous peoples or tribal nations whose lands you occupy now. We acknowledge the terror of colonialism, genocide, ethnic cleansing, broken treaties, stolen land, forced removal, and boarding schools, as well as the thousands of missing and murdered Indigenous women and children each year, and the ripple effects of violence still being experienced today. We know that Indigenous peoples are not historical subjects, but are part of our communities. They offer invaluable wisdom for how we exist in relationship with Mother Earth, as well as our human and non-human neighbors. It's also important for us to offer a labor acknowledgement. With permission granted by Dr. Tara T.J. Stewart, we acknowledge that much of what we know of this country today, including its culture, economic growth, and development, has been made possible by the labor of enslaved Africans and their ascendants who suffered the horror of transatlantic trafficking, slavery, and Jim Crow laws. We are indebted to their labor and their sacrifice, and we acknowledge the tremors of that violence throughout the generations and the resulting impact that can still be felt and witnessed today. Another vital part of creating beloved community is fostering a sense of belonging. So we invite each of you to update your name in Zoom to include your pronouns. This is just one more way we can express welcome for all of God's children. And at any point during these gatherings, you may access captions options in the Zoom menu on your device. It might also show as an icon with the letters CC in a box. You may also need to click on 3 little dots or swipe to a different screen within Zoom to access this option. So let us continue our work toward healing and justice by entering into a place of peace and listening together. Through these regular gatherings, we have developed a covenant of how we enter and interact in this space. We're committed to creating a safer and braver space where each of us are able to bring the truth of who we are and how we are doing. If you share something today you wish for us to edit out of the recording, just let us know afterwards. And with all of this said, we affirm these conversations are meant to be an intentional step to live more fully into God's dream for us as the body of Christ, the beloved community. As Bell Hooks wrote in All About Love, rarely, if ever, are any of us healed in isolation. Healing is an act of communion. So our regular gatherings in 2025 will have a general flow of listening, learning, and sharing for the first 3 weeks of each month, with intentional movement from head to heart to hands. Each of us are invited to go even deeper in these 4th weeks among the beloved community to discern and name our next most faithful step. How are we intentionally living out our faith in our daily lives? Stephanie, Mukesh, tell
Thank
us how.
you. No, we don't tell you how. We help you discover how. I'm going to share my screen in just a second. Really, I'm working on it. Sorry. Okay. Oh, I probably forgot to hit the I'm going to stop sharing. Sorry, guys. I'm problematic today. I have to do that share sound button. That's the tricky one that you always I wish it did that automatically. Here we are. There we go. So as we move into this 4th step, this how do we take our thoughts and our conversations into action, we'll start with a little time of centering. As I've been hearing a lot of conversations over the past weeks, especially on the 3rd week of the month when we gathered in this space, I have heard a lot of people expressing anger and angst and frustration and disgust and sorrow and lots of other descriptors about the climate of our culture today. And it made me think about the story of Esther, and especially this verse. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place. But you and your father's family will perish. Who knows? Perhaps you have come to royal dignity for such a time as this. And it just kind of reminds me of our current situation, because she found herself in a time of trauma for her people and in a unique position to make a difference on their behalf. So it made me think about perhaps what we are called to for such a time as this. I invite you to listen to a song that tells her story, but also offers a little bit of inspiration and challenge.
Feels like I've been holding my breath, trying to steal my restless heart. Everything hangs on my next step, finding my nerve, playing my part. I found shelter underneath his crown, found favor inside his eyes. Rock this boat and I just might drown. Honesty seems to come with a price. There's a time to hold your tongue, time to keep your head down. There's a time, but it's not now. Sometimes you gotta go uninvited. Sometimes you gotta speak when you don't have the floor. Sometimes you gotta move when everybody else says you should say, no way, no, not today. You gotta ask if you want an answer. Sometimes you gotta stand apart from the crowd, long before your heart could run the risk. You were born for this. Hey, you were born for this. I'm leaning on the ones before me, my father's dreams. I'm standing on the top of the shoulders, calling the one delivering me. There's a time to hold your tongue, time to keep your head down. There's a time, but it's not now. Sometimes you gotta go uninvited. Sometimes you gotta speak when you don't have the floor. Sometimes you gotta move when everybody else says you should say, no way, no, not today. You gotta ask if you want an answer. Sometimes you gotta stand apart from the crowd, long before your heart could run the risk. You were born for this. Yeah, you were born for this. One step, one move, born to trust you, made to lay my life before you. So I gotta go. Sometimes you gotta speak when you don't have the floor. Sometimes you gotta move when everybody else says you should say, no way, no, not today. You gotta ask if you want an answer.
So I hope that Esther's story gives us a little courage and a little encouragement to stand up. But there's so much going on that sometimes I feel just overwhelmed. Like, where do I start? There's just so many dumpster fires going on. Which one do I try to put out? So I think that this super short video from Nadia Bolz-Weber gives us a place to start.
I have a teacher named Suzanne Stabile, and she teaches Enneagram. She's taught me these discernment questions that I use pretty much every day of my life. What's mine to do? And what's not mine to do? And what's mine to say? And what's not mine to say? And then the third one's tricky. It's because it feels harsh. Like, what's mine to care about? And what's not mine to care about? It doesn't mean it's not worthy to be cared about by someone, but I can't care about all the things. Like, nobody can. So it's really helped me be grounded and clear, because especially when you're a public figure, people will tell you what they think is yours to do and what's yours to say. And through doing that for years, I end up really knowing when something is mine to do.
So I'm going to invite us to just take 2 minutes to meditate on those sets of questions. You can keep your eyes open and look at them and play a little bit of music while we do it, and just meditate and pray about where those questions lead you. God, hear the meditations of our hearts and come speak to us. Dwell in us, blow through us, and point us in that direction. Give us the words that are ours to say. Give us the actions that are ours to do. And show us where we can have your impact in the world. Amen. Mukesh.
Thank you, Stephanie. And again, glad that you're able to spend this time and space with us. For our next part of our time today, we will be invited to join in small groups as we discuss and reflect, considering following up on the next concrete steps we can take toward living out our faith more fully in our daily lives. And so we'll be invited to join a small group. I guess Jason will have us join in small groups. And we will spend this time discussing, helping to identify a kind of specific action that we may want to take by asking some powerful questions seen on our screen that will be projected. Be mindful that we may not be able to answer all of our question or ask all of the question, and that is okay. We are also encouraged to, if you need to, write down your comments or commitment and the thought that you present to yourself through this experience. We also in the past have asked 3 questions for the breakout group to consider together in order. So on this 4th Wednesday's breakout, we like you to focus on each group member in order to ask each question to that one person before turning to the next person. In other words, allow that person to share their time by asking 3 questions of the questions here, whatever they choose to be. And then once we finish, the next person will be then asked the questions. We will give you a signal or time or some sign that your time is up to move on to the next person. Are there any questions at this time? So the questions will be posted. Jason, will you be able to pose those questions and divide us up into groups? I see Naomi is there, so welcome, Naomi. Glad that you're able to join us. Everyone else is there. So Jason, I'll give you the honor to divide us in a group and we can discuss. Thank you, my dear beloved community. So at this time, I would say we are going to spend a few minutes sharing what we have shared. What was the experience like for you? And I know we are invited. Please, not all of you at one time, but let's start with one.
I don't know. I kind of want to see what it's like if everybody just starts talking.
It will be something like Pentecost,
Mm-hmm.
I imagine.
Maybe Mukesh, you can tell us what it you want to share from your
Yeah, thank you.
conversation.
Thank you. I appreciate being, yeah. So I shared what I have shared with us before we gather as a full group. One of the things I struggle in life, and I feel that I need to empower myself, is to be more technological savvy, if you will, to be able to do more Zoom, be more capable of doing Zoom, to do PowerPoints and to do TikTok videos. I share with our little group. And I shared a little with Jason before too. We were talking about technology, and I shared during COVID when we were doing worship at home. I came out from worship service that morning, stepped out the door, and did some funny things as if karate with my robe and my stole on. I just went hoo ha ha hoo ha, and my daughter was with her camera, with her phone, videoing me for 30 seconds, and put it on TikTok. And lo and behold, she said, Dad, a few days after, she said, Dad, come here. It was over 500,000 in views. And it was very positive because people said, this is a cool pastor. I wish I was close by to go to his worship space. He is for real. Those are some things I got. And I was like, how can I empower myself to use technology to share the good news of the gospel? Mm. And it started out because where I was this past weekend, there was a congregation that said, we want to disengage our youth to engage our youth in God's creation. And as I was reflecting on that, they want to have the youth stay away from technology and to be more practical in hands-on, if you will. Go by the river, go by the yard, play with bugs, things like that. And I'm saying, as good, true Lutheran, can we be both and people? And so I thought of how can we use, in my case here, how can I empower myself to use technology to share the gospel. Because if people may not be able to come to the worship space Sunday morning, if they can just build a relationship with God. Because for me, again, while I encourage strongly to gather as God's people on a Sunday morning to worship in a worship space, there are other ways we can be God's people in community. I think I talked too much here. So anyway, that was my thing. And I was saying, yeah, let me stop. If anyone have any question, I'll be more than happy to.
I just want to just comment. I've been thinking about how do you become an influencer? And apparently you have lots of people financially underwrite you. But I wondered, how come the church doesn't have influencers? And we do. There's Mukesh, one of our influencers. So, but I think that's part of how do we get those kind of followings? How do we get our message out there in a way that that people are curious about us, that begin to follow us? Because we have some truth to tell. And here, technology, Mukesh, you're way better at it than I am. So so that having been said, I'm not your influencer.
Well, so you may not know or feel that you're an influencer, but you are in a different way. Right? Yeah, because we all communicate differently. I always looked at you as a spiritual leader, and I sometimes have my oof when you present to us. So I think we all influence one way or another without us sometimes knowing it. And that's why it's so important that wherever we are, I'm maybe speaking out of term, I love this coaching because Life of Faith initiative, which we are part of, is just empowering people to live their baptism vows on a daily basis wherever you are. We don't have to be within the church wall to live as Christ-like people, right? And whatever we do and say have some sort of influence, whether bad, good, or indifference. I'm starting to preach now. Oh, so sorry. I'm sorry.
Jill just put in the comments, I believe that ELCA youth and young adults are very much taking advantage of technology and have influencers at work and ministry. Did you want to say any more about that? Or did...
Ironically, I couldn't find the mute button. So, but that relates to the one story I have. The reason I think this is because very early on, when Daniel Kirschbaum became the senior director of young adult ministries, Daniel invited me to do an interview, and young adult ministry team has been very much a collaborator and a champion of coaching. I want that on every record that there is, because they've been great collaborators with us. So Daniel invited me to do an interview, and it was on one of these platforms. It maybe was Instagram, and I didn't even have an account, nothing. So I felt like, okay, I have this all set up, and I went to do it from my phone, and they had intended it to be all on computer, and I didn't know that. I wasn't aware that that was the way it was going to happen, and they couldn't connect with me. And so I just remember feeling, oh my gosh, I blew it so badly. But it was that, having that early relationship with Daniel as a colleague, and then just learning about all the ways that they were being intentional. But because I developed this account, I did start to see all the ways that they were posting. And I think that there's some real strategy and intentional thought that goes behind what they're posting, and the little bit of relationship that I have with the youth ministry team. I see that happening, especially around gathering. So it's happening in some pockets of the ELCA, and ELCA World Hunger also just launched a wonderful video about their global impact. It's like a 28-minute video, and it's beautiful and talks a lot about around the world, how they are journeying with individuals to address food insecurity. Yeah, so those are just a few brief examples that I have.
Thanks.
Others, please.
Yeah, I
Jen.
was just going to say something that I didn't say in our group because we were busy answering the questions. But I had seen these questions that Nadia Bolz-Weber shared before. But what I hadn't ever heard was her say the more she's living within those questions, the more she is able to see what's hers to do or to. And I really appreciated that. And it made me think of too, when I'm just so busy, running around like a chicken, caring about this and that. And I don't take time to listen to this, what maybe is the spirit calling me to do, and to be listening to that pull. So that was really something for me to think about. I appreciated that.
Good.
Great.
Yeah, and I tried to find some short videos of Sylvia, who was the teacher she referenced, kind of talking about that framework, but she basically, all of the videos I found were her talking about it in relation to a particular Enneagram number. So just kind of not an overall. I thought Pastor Nadia did a really good job of summing it up really well. Anybody else want to share what's yours to do, or something that you discovered in your conversations?
I was able to come up with some things that I'm not called to do any longer. And that I think that was just, I mean, it's been kind of swirling around in there for a bit. And I think that gave me permission to actually stop and write it down. So, well, I appreciated that.
Yeah, I also appreciated thinking about what is not mine to do. I know what is mine to do right now, but the math of like subtracting the things that are not mine to do makes it a lot easier to focus on what is mine.
One thing, Tammy, go ahead. I'll share something later. No? Okay. One thing that I was thinking about, I told Jill and Jason about, was this morning I had a conversation with my husband, and he stayed up late to watch Jimmy Kimmel last night. And I did not. I was sleeping. And I said, "You don't even like him." And he's like, "Well, sometimes you got to work the metrics." And anyway, it was important to hear what he had to say at this time. And the funny thing was, at the end of this monologue, he said people have been asking me if there's any conditions of my return to television, and he said, "Yep, there's one." And he took out of his pocket if anybody would like to renew their resubscribe to Disney and Hulu, please feel free to do so at this time. And I thought, if people aren't going to do the right thing for the right reason, at least you know how to influence them. Like if capitalism is their primary motivator, I can use my money to do the right thing. And sometimes I don't know what the right thing for my energy to do, or my spirit, or my emotions, but I know that where I spend my money makes a difference. And that's at least something. And it's harder to, I don't get to watch Disney Plus if I don't want, if I want to sometimes, or I don't get to shop at Target. I have to go somewhere else. I have to go to a local store. That's not a terrible thing. So just thinking about the power of, in this world, how to be in but not of this world, is to use the tools of this world to influence it.
Can I speak out of term here for a minute? Thank you, Stephanie, for giving me some sermon material for this Sunday.
Oh.
It was about the rich man and Lazarus, right? How do we use our money?
Mm-hmm. It's true.
So thank you. I have something to work with. That's how the Spirit works.
That's right. That's right. I wonder if Sylvia or Becky have anything you were thinking about you wanted to share. Not today. That's okay, Sylvia.
Well, I'm competing with my Huskies for sound bites.
Well,
Or
that's fun. I love
Well-
having a dog around.
Yeah, unless they think I'm talking to them and then they're talking back.
Oh,
See? Anyway, you would think that in all these years of ministry, I would figure this out, but my goal for the next few weeks is really to empower other people to do the pieces that they are very equipped to do and they can do, and probably then live with that, what's not mine to do, so that's what I am going to be working on. Yeah, just to empower other people, and so that next year I'm going to take a sabbatical in 2 different parts, and so I want to make sure that you'll be fine. No, you can't go with me, but you'll be fine. But to make sure that I can go with confidence, knowing that I've equipped the others to do the work, so they're not, that it doesn't rely on me, but it relies really on shh. So, this is what happened. My mistake was to come home, turn on the computer and jump on this meeting. So I didn't give them lots of time, but yeah. But we have a lot of very capable people that are able to do the pieces, and that I do not need to do them all. And we are stronger when we share those tasks.
I'm wondering if anybody wants to name something that you don't need to do, that's not yours to do, or something you don't need to care about.
I had trouble with those questions, but when people were talking, it reminded me of the serenity prayer, those things that we cannot change. And then the prayer of recognizing that.
Yeah, that's deep discernment. That's what Nadia was talking about, that discernment. You're right.
Yeah, mine is just, I have a number of things I'm interested in. So it's just trying to keep focus. But the Christian nationalism is my primary concern.
So is that something that is yours to do something about?
Yeah, I'm not always sure. Well, I mean, I do by speaking about it, but I just haven't quite figured out something on a bigger level.
Yeah.
So we are on top of the hour. Do you want to encourage either Jason or Jill to perhaps give us updates? It's 2:53, if it is okay with everyone else.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay, Jason?
Thank you for helping us create beloved community today. Friendly reminder, upcoming events can be found on the coaching website, elcacoaching.org/events. A few I want to highlight for you this Friday, September 26th. The Coalition to Dismantle the Doctrine of Discovery is hosting their monthly decolonizing worship gathering, and I'll add a few links in the chat while I do this. Next Wednesday, October 1st, please join us back in this space for creating beloved community with a focus on healing together. Later that same day, we begin our final Supportive Spaces cohort for 2025. That's with Jen, if you want to give a wave, Jen. And then our next Living a Life of Faith gathering will be in the fourth Wednesday, which is October 22nd. Jill, are you raising your hand? What did I forget?
When you were listing everything, I don't think it's on our website, but I encourage everyone on September 30th to wear orange in honor of the awareness of boarding schools and supporting the
thank you.
truth and healing movement. Yes, and take a picture and post it on social media. And if you don't want to do that, you can send it to me, and with your permission, I can put it on our Facebook page.
Thank you, Jill.
Thank you.
It's amazing the number of people that respond when you do something simple like that and post a picture. Thank you.
Would you like to say our closing statement?
I love to say that because I love everyone in this space and everyone that's hearing this recording. Please know, friends, as you leave, that you are seen, you are valued, and you indeed are loved. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you for being a part of Beloved Community.
Thank you, everybody.